So, what's going on with Europe? Because it appears to have completely lost its mind. It's willing to defend everybody else's borders, but not its own. So a slight continuation of your theme, Carl. But why don't we just start with this stirring video? It is worth playing this just to give you an idea of the tone and tenor of what's going on at the moment. Play that, Samson.
Play again.
The first priority of this government, of any government, is the security and safety of the British people, to defend the national interest, particularly in these volatile times. That's why last week I announced the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. That's also why I met President Trump last week, to strengthen our relationship with America, an indispensable partners in defence and security. And it's why this weekend I've been hosting European leaders here in London to work together for the security of the United Kingdom, Ukraine and Europe as a whole. We are at a crossroads in history today. This is not a moment for more talk. It's time to act, time to step up and lead.
Right, so anyone with a buy-to-let mortgage in their portfolio, anybody who listens to Country File or Radio 4, has just masturbated themselves into a coma after watching that.
It's the return of Winston Churchill.
That is total boomer chaff, that is.
Churchill famously insufferably nasal.
Yes. Actions, not just words. So that's the sort of key message. And what was he talking about there? He was saying the first priority is the security of the British people. I want you to remember that as we go through this segment. First priority, security of the British people. Okay, fine. Biggest increase in defence spending, strengthening our relationship with the US, hosting EU leaders, crossroad of history, time for action, plans for enduring peace. Now, the next link that I'm going to put up, Samson, don't show the next one to the audience, but is it been removed? So that picture of the leg, in Mannheim. I'll just have to describe it, but
it's just a severed, pale leg.
The leg of a young woman, maybe 14, 15 years old, a leg on the street of Germany, severed below the knee because a car rammed into a crowd. So we are...
A car?
Yes.
Just a car.
A car, yes. Here we are from CNN. 2 killed... 11 injured after car rams into crowd of German city of Mannheim. Now, again, we're going through the same routine that we always go through these things, which is to say, look, we have no idea who it is.
Oh, no, we do.
Oh, do we?
Yes, he is a 40-year-old German citizen that they've named Alexander.
Right.
So, because he's a German citizen, no questions need to be asked. Just a background of mental health difficulties, I'm sure.
Well, that is the same story every time for the first few days. It is just it's just a mental health issue. Now, maybe in this case, it is a sort of born and bred German native for 800 generations or something. Maybe it is who is just having mental health difficulties. If that's
sorry, I love this. The suspect is a 40-year-old German national. Well, there we go.
Yes. What does that even tell you at this point?
Well, it tells you that he's administratively German.
Well, the SPD brought in citizenship reforms last year that allow you to have dual citizenship, and it fast tracks citizenship applications for foreign nationals. Now, again, we actually don't know if he recently received a citizenship or not, and we don't even know his motivation. However, basic pattern recognition from the past means that people, let's say, not unfairly, jumped to the conclusion thinking this was another Islamic inspired.
Well, and even if it is a mental health issue, it's because of this. It's because this sort of thing is a daily occurrence in Germany. So if you've got a mental health issue, if you're hearing on the news all the time that cars ram into crowds, if you do have a mental health issue, that's where it's going to push you. I don't think it is that. It's far more likely it's exactly what it looks like. But this is the sad point. Mannheim attack is daily news now here. While we're on the subject of Germany, very quickly, thank you very much to the lovely German person who sent us in a whole bunch of chocolates and little cakes and biscuits and things. Appreciate you very much. We do always appreciate our fans. You don't have to send us chocolate. You can if you like, but what you can certainly do is buy an island of 3, and that's how you can support us. So Yes, get one of those. In fact, there we go. That was the lovely German who sent us. Well, that wasn't the German. That was the chocolates that the lovely German sent us in. So appreciate that.
As someone who lived in Germany for 8 years, the Germans do two things very, very well: chocolate and sausages.
Right. Okay. Oh, I did wonder what the second thing was going to be, but okay. Yeah. No, I will agree with you on that one. So yeah, you can buy Islander 3 and supporters. Interesting thing. You go to the BBC news page.
Mm-hmm.
Just bear in mind that last link was saying that basically the Mannheim attack is now a daily occurrence.
Well, the thing is, daily occurrences rarely make the news. Why would I report on something?
Well,
that
it's
happens all the
I mean, it's
time?
not on there.
Yeah.
It's not on there. Happened yesterday. It's not on there. Okay, but fair enough. I mean, the BBC News does cover it. So let's go to
World's largest iceberg.
Let's go to world and then Europe. So what about? So we were specifically dialing down just on Europe now. But for something that happened yesterday. Okay.
Conspicuous.
Okay, if I scroll down far enough. Oh, okay.
There was a live blog yesterday. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
See,
Okay.
the car drove into the crowd.
Right.
Yes.
The car did it.
So if I go specifically to the Europe section, I go far enough down, then eventually we
And you
get
told that the
some
cars in
mention.
Germany have gone mad.
Yeah, and a poltergeist has taken over
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mini Cooper or whatever it was.
But of course, it's not just Germany, because we used to these sort of car attacks in Germany. Let's go to a tweet here from this chap who is linked to something which is absolutely horrific. Samson, can you play this? And this is shocking. This is just a random event that happened in this country yesterday. So if you're watching, if you're listening, somebody who is just as British as you are goes up to the top deck of a shopping centre, picks up a large item of furniture and hurls it over the balcony blinds, and it's within inches of basically killing a couple of people.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Starmer's response will be to immediately announce a banning of any furniture that isn't nailed down.
The only way to
Yep.
deal with it.
I'm just going to play that one more time while I make this point. Oh no, let's start again. And I'm going to make this point. Okay, the official narrative in this country is the greatest threat to the British people is Russia, and the greatest benefit to the British people is mass immigration. While that video is playing in the background.
Well, said diversity is very strong enough to pick up that bit of furniture and lob it multiple flights.
Let's just go to that. Okay, so
crazy.
that guy was
Literally inches from death.
inches away from either being killed or mum goes to pick up the kids from school and say, yeah, daddy's in the hospital, you can't wake up. And if he does wake up, he's going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, because those kids who are just as British as you are
Just absolute psychopaths.
just thought it'd be funny. And if that had hit a child, an elderly person, instant death.
Yeah.
But the point that I made in the previous tweet that was captioned is that anytime you hear about the phrase no-go zones in London, which Trump has used before, you get the disingenuous race communists like Ash Sarkar.
Show me the barrier.
Yeah, show me. It's not just that there are areas like Tower Hamlets and Whitechapel which are ill-advised for particularly female members of the native population to go at any time of day. No, it's the fact that these random acts of violence are so arbitrary, so reasonless, so unpredictable, except for the disproportionate demographic that's committing them, that public spaces like shopping centres become an ill-advised place to go, and just that level of background radiation of psychological anxiety means that if you want to enjoy yourself in your own capital city, you can't, and so you just avoid spending as much time there as possible. So outside of work, I just don't go to London. I don't.
Exactly.
Why would you?
Yeah, and so my own capital city, in my own homeland, has been rendered a no-go zone for me if I don't want my phone stolen, if I don't want to be subjected to a random act of violence, and if I don't want to walk around stressed all the time.
The thing is, as well, one thing that really bothers me is you look around, everything's fine. Yeah, everything's fine until this splats you.
Well, exactly. I'm sure when you're out walking with your kids, your head's on a swivel, you're looking out for danger. It's what men do. Yeah. You're not going to be bloody looking up as well. Yeah. I mean, you've got enough to be looking out for.
But like this could have gone literally just a foot to the right, and there would have been blood all over the place.
Yes.
Right? There would have been people screaming and shouting. Everything is peaceful until it's not.
And then it's
terrifying.
Now, I only saw this because Connor retweeted it. This won't make the news.
No.
Keir Starmer will not be talking about this. But no, apparently Russia is the biggest threat.
No, BBC will instead run a round-the-clock news item in prime time saying why Camden Council's diversity drive for building HS2 for people of that exact complexion, never mind their moral character, is an unalloyed good that you should be funding instead.
Yes.
So the state will propagandise you into thinking that unlimited numbers of people like that chap who have no
just as
regard
British
for
as
your
you are.
life,
Yeah.
is a good thing. Never mind what's happening there.
Yeah, and this is just this is just a thing that happened yesterday. We've got to get used to. So I mean, to compare that, and this is what I'm really trying to do in this segment, is compare the joys and benefits of mass immigration versus the threat and peril of Russia. I thought it might be interesting just to look up all the times that Britain has invaded Russia and all the times that Russia has invaded Britain. So I've got the list. In fact, I had to cut it short. I had to do it within only the last 200 years.
Let me guess. Is it the Crimean War in like?
So Crimean War, 1853. Britain, alongside France and the Ottoman Empire, launched an invasion of Crimea, attacking positions such as Sevastopol. Anglo-Russian War, 1807. During the Napoleonic War, Britain captured Russian territories. Intervention in the Russian Civil War. This one is crazy. So in 1918, Britain, along with a whole bunch of other powers, basically invade Russia under the cover of their civil war. I mean, imagine if during our...
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. Imagine if during our civil war, several Russian battalions turned up on the side of the Cavaliers. Yeah. It is, yeah. Naval raids in the Baltic, 1854.
Right, okay.
Carl's laughing because I'm envisioning
Yeah, no.
a version of the future where Cromwell didn't win.
Well, yes, there is that. But anyway, so there's 4 examples in the last 200 years, and there's more. There's many more examples. Especially if you want to go up to Europe as a whole, the amount of times Europe as a whole has invaded Russia, many occasions. I'm now going to list the times that Russia has invaded British territory. There we go. That's it. Yes. They have never invaded our territory. We have invaded their territory multiple times. Which sort of brings me to... I did a response to Peter McCormack, who was asking. So he's basically asking the question, and I'm not digging on Peter here. He's a friend. I like him, but I just wanted to sort of get into the thinking behind this. But he's basically asking, why is it that the war in Gaza would end if Hamas released the hostages, but not similarly the war in Ukraine would end if Russia just stopped its illegal invasion? Now, again, I'm not beating up on Peter because he's a friend, but I just wanted to address the particular point because this is the core of it. It's because those moral considerations are in practice entirely irrelevant. It's not about who's correct. It's not about who can make the most principled argument on Twitter. It is simply that Israel and Russia can exercise raw power in Gaza and Ukraine, and the failure to make peace at the earliest opportunity is therefore immoral and wrong and stupid. There's no upside to it.
Both those arguments are positioning Gaza and Ukraine as in the position of asking for mercy. So
yes,
that's a tacit admission.
Or asking for a foreign patron to step in and save them. There isn't one.
Well, that's the next point I make. The moral argument is only useful if you can convince a greater power to intervene. And it was obvious from the start that the US, EU will not overtly engage Russia. Yep. And that's why it does simply come down to the distinction between hard power and soft power. Here's a very easy example. That's a street. That's a sign at the end of my street. It's a neighbourhood watch area. Incidentally, now do you remember when those went up a lot all over the place 20 years ago? I look at them slightly differently now. I'm looking at that and wondering if what's going on there is this lady is saying to the police officer, this diverse man has captured my daughter, can I have her back? And the police officer is saying, no, you're going to be arrested for racism.
But look at the moral unity that's displayed in the picture.
Yes.
The police, your friend, they're on your side, as are your neighbours. So, watch out for some chav youths who might, steal something from your car.
At the top deck of a shopping centre or whatever.
Well, not nearly that crazy, right?
Just milling about on a street corner.
Yeah, they might be smoking some drugs and they might steal something from your car or something. Yeah. Right? That was the level of criminality.
But this is the ultimate expression of soft power rhetoric. This is utterly ineffectual. There's an effectual home defence.
No, it is. No, I disagree.
It's effectual in a different kind of society.
In a high trust.
Oh yeah, in a society that no longer exists.
Yeah, exactly.
In a society that no longer exists.
Can I contrast the previous sign with the signs that you see on the London Underground? So the previous sign had its text written in something akin to. It looks like a children's TV show. It looks like Rainbow from the 70s, right? This is being presented as cuddly, comfy, we can police ourselves. Whereas because London is such a diverse city, and even though the signs are in English, they're not that effective, now you get announcements to stand on this side of the escalator, do not stare at people, do not speak, like all the very forceful fonts, very plain, very...
Do you ever play Half-Life 2?
Yes.
Very much like that.
Yeah.
Like, think of Bream's regime, you know, where you've got the guards in their masks, and it's like, move over there, citizen, you know, do this. It's a command society.
It's like being in Arkham City.
Yeah.
But when this is referencing a world that no longer exists, this is
absolutely.
empty platitude at this point. This is what matters. This is the point. This is hard power. So Russia controls 100% of Crimea, 100% of Lugansk, 94.3% of Kherson, 72% of Zaporozhye. I'm probably saying that wrong, and 61% of Donetsk. Yeah. So the only question here is not. Don't tell me about your principles. Don't tell me about the moral arguments. Do you have the raw power? Do you have the hard power to evict Russia from those areas?
Well, you can only enforce principles where you have hard power control.
Yes. Well, principles are a post-justification for what your raw power does.
In some cases, but it's also a projection of what you're going to do in the future. But either way, if you don't have the might to enforce your dictates on what's happening, you can hold any principle you want. But if it doesn't translate to reality, who cares?
So this is the point that, you know, somebody like Kemi Baynor doesn't understand. She says at times like these, it's important we stand together to defend the fundamental principles. But without raw power, that's meaningless.
But also, like, so this is basically schoolyard politics, and I mean that in the most,
student politics. Yeah.
Not specifically like primary schoolyard politics, because the aggressor shouldn't win. Okay. So what you're asking for, again, is a higher power or an authority, a teacher, to step in and reprimand the bully. Because if you just allow the kids to play it out long enough, the bully will win all the interactions if the smaller and weaker kid does not have someone to step in on their side. So what she's saying here is either the UK should step in, which we don't have the military might to do so, or that we should escalate to some sort of higher authority, which in their mind is like what? Just
United States.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent point. It's always teacher come save me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least she's opposition. This is Keir Starmer, who
ostensibly opposition.
Yes, who is the prime minister. So does he understand the difference between raw power and waffling about principles? Let's play this, Samson.
The answer's going to be no, brother.
Speaker, it was a productive summit. Together we agreed a clear strategy.
Okay, clear strategy.
That
good.
The United Kingdom, France, and our allies will work closely with Ukraine on a plan to stop the fighting, which we will then discuss directly with the United States.
Okay.
It's a plan that has 4 clear principles.
Oh, there we go. Straight back to principles.
Well, what's interesting about this as well? What are they actually fighting for? Because I've seen a lot of people say, okay, we've turned Britain into Airstrip 1. We're an economic zone for people from anywhere to come and go and take as they please. But they're fighting for Ukraine to basically have like blood and soil nationalism and hard borders. I don't even think that's the case.
Funny you should ask what they're fighting for. Julia Hartley-Brewer's answered that question.
I like Julia interpersonally, but she does have a very simplistic view of this conflict.
For those of you who are listening, Julie Hartley-Brewer is saying, I watched Darkest Hour, so that's the Churchill movie. Again,
I haven't even watched it, but I can only imagine it's the most intense boomer bait you've ever seen.
London is a lot more diverse than you might have thought it was.
Oh,
back
was
in
it? Really?
39.
Interesting.
I suggest anyone cheering on Trump's demand for Zelensky to capitulate on Russia takes the time to watch this movie too. They might learn something about how you deal with Putin. So
we had an empire.
Hang on.
We had an empire, Julia.
Hang on. How you should deal with a threat from dictators like Putin? By allying with Stalin.
Yes.
Sorry, did I just enter a parallel universe where Churchill never made the pact with the Soviet Union?
I have long felt that basically all big policy decisions should be done by referendum. Things like, do you think there should be higher taxes? Do you think there should be mass immigration? Do you think we should go to war? And then depending on what you put on your answer depends on what happens. So if you say yes to we should have higher taxes, you pay higher taxes. If you say yes to mass immigration, you get one in your house. And if you say yes to war, then you go and fight.
So you're going to draft all the boomers?
Yes. And ironically,
the situation is just so different. Yeah. Like Britain was like a quarter of the world's GDP at that point.
Yes. And even then, we needed the Americans to win.
Yeah. And even then, we needed help.
This is a chart tracking the Ukrainians' own attitude towards the war. Now, as you can see, at the beginning of the war, it was very high. They thought that Ukraine should continue fighting the war. Now, you can forgive them for thinking that in early 2022, because the narrative was that they're going to get all the support. The West is 100% behind them. They probably thought there was going to be US troops turning up fairly soon. And you can just see the Ukrainian support for continuing the war is now about a third.
Well, especially because the Russian sanctions themselves didn't work, because you drove Russia into the arms of China, which was completely inverting the Nixon doctrine, which helped win the Cold War of driving Russia and China apart.
But only a third want to continue this war, and half want it to end. Even the Ukrainians are saying, no, this must end. We want this to end. There was a clear mandate for wanting this to end. Samson, could you play this? This is what it looks like in Ukraine. These are a bunch of men who have basically been captured, dragged off the street, because, you can kill the sound, though.
Well, that's what conscription is.
So look at this. These people have basically just been captured, and they're being forced to the front line. Look at these guys. Their hands are in plastic cuffs.
Yeah, like they're prisoners of war.
So it's all very well for, Julia Hartley-Brew and the rest of them to say, oh, isn't this exciting? There's a war. Send off these men. These men are being held at gunpoint in plastic cuffs.
Yeah, I despise this position.
It is sick and it is evil.
But it also just shows the phrase war criminal, and again, Putin, bad, not good person. War criminal is meaningless because, one, you have to sign up to the rules-based international order in order to be relegated by the standards of justice that render you a war criminal. But also, if that isn't a war crime, then the phrase war criminal means nothing.
Yep.
Right.
So those poor lads have to be sent into the meat grinder so that this guy can keep his coke supply coming and keep skimming off the top.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. Not that I think it's...
Whilst at the same time, Europe does absolutely nothing to protect people like this.
Yeah. In fact, actively enables these situations to happen by covering up the crimes, importing more perpetrators.
It's so much deeper than that as well. It's the entire face of the state is against the British people at this point.
Yeah.
And so I'll talk about it another time. We're running out of time, but this is the worst manifestation of how that.
I mean, I had an unexpectedly popular tweet. It was just something I banged out, and basically, in response to Keir Starmer saying that he's going to put British troops in. I mean, the only way that don't bother playing it. The only way that it's going to work is if we massively ramp up conscription, because there is no chance that the British Army, with whatever it is, it's 60,000 fighting men and women, is going to take on the Russian army.
200,000 boat migrants, crack them on.
Yeah, you'll see how quickly the diversity returns to the nations of origin.
Yeah, exactly. You could literally, if you wanted to, have these people self-repatriate, you would literally just say, right, okay, anyone who came here in the last 5 years is being conscripted into the military. 2 years worth of service, then you get your citizenship.
Well, I mean, that's how the Romans did it.
Absolutely.
If they were going to absorb a population, it's okay, fight for us first, and then maybe
it's only 2 years in the military, then you get your citizenship, and everything will be great, and literally the country will hollow out.
But that was unexpectedly popular. I basically just told Keir Starmer to do one. I'm not fighting for him. You just put me in prison instead. I mean, I'm probably too old anyway, but solidarity with Connor over there. What was that? 2 million people have viewed that. Which will be a lot even for one of your tweets, let alone for one of my tweets. So, that's
spectacular.
Yes. So that certainly resonated. Going with a boomer mindset on this is Michael McFaul, who's perceiving this through the lens of Star Wars.
Thing is, I don't even support the rebels in Star Wars.
I mean, it's just this. Every liberal analogy is either about Star Wars, Harry Potter, or Hitler, where Star Wars is about space Hitler and Harry Potter is about wizard Hitler. It's just Hitler all the way down.
If it helps, I actually don't mind fictional metaphors being used in this way. We use them as well, like Lord of the Rings and things like this, right? So it's fine. It's fine because this is the purpose of fiction, is to create a representation of reality that tells a story that instructs us in a moral way. So it's actually not wrong for them to do that.
I would argue that the problem is that this story is completely made up.
All stories are made up.
And actually, if it was a realistic, if it was a realistic movie about a much larger military taking on a much
the rebels would be crushed. Yeah,
the smaller military would get crushed.
Well, not just that. Like, if this were a Star Wars parallel, it wouldn't be the rebels v the Empire. It would be the Empire v the Hutt cartel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Literally them invading Tatooine and fighting bounty hunters.
But the interesting thing is there is actually an entire genre of movies about a much larger military crushing a smaller military, and it's basically every US war movie.
Yes.
But these Julie Hartley-Brewer and Michael McFaul would never watch one of those and think, oh yeah, actually Ukraine probably needs to make peace because it's not going to win. Even though there's an entire genre of movie, they would never make that connection. This I thought is also worth throwing in there. So this is a sort of random anecdote from somebody I followed that basically points out, look, he was dating this Ukrainian girl, and one day she referred to herself as Russian. He was like, what's going on there? And she explained that she is Russian, even though she was born and lived her whole life in Ukraine. That's the thing. 30% of Ukrainians are ethnically Russian,
yes,
who speak only Russian.
Yes.
And the Zelensky government basically banned Russian books, Russian TV, Russian theatre, Russian magazines, Russian newspapers, just banned it.
Yeah. I mean, if we were at war with Scotland, I'd probably do the same.
Well, yes. I mean, yeah.
I'm actually a lot more understanding about that with Zelensky. It is, his country is being actively invaded by Russia. I can understand why he puts up a hard border.
We don't enforce English in this country. If you go to Whitechapel, you see signs in...
Yeah, but we never had to. We need
Bangladeshi.
Anyway, in the interest of time, let's hurry.
Yes. So very quickly, Europe is basically saying, look, they're going to spend an extra 800 billion on defence spending. Now, I ran the maths on this.
Thank you, school mom, somehow in charge of our continent.
I ran the maths on this because, look, people are saying, look, this was the whole debate we had recently in the US about the cost of deporting people. Say, look, it's going to cost $14,000 per person. Okay, so let's say Europe is going to spend 800 billion on defence spending. If you spent that on deportations instead, you get 57 million deportations out of Europe.
Pretty good.
And so I just asked the question, in what future is Europe going to be safer? The one where they extend the Ukraine war by 18 months, or the one where they deport 57 million third worlders out of Europe?
Well, the thing they fail to understand is that they're basically asking for mercenary forces to defend Europe. Whereas if they made Europe a place worth living and preserving, they would have untold numbers of volunteers. Like in World War I, 1 million men signed up to defend the British Empire from Britain alone.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge.
It's not going to happen again.
No, that's never going to happen again because they love their country and it was worth defending. It's not worth defending now.
It was a time.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.